Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining. My name is Natalia, and I'm a regional coordinator at Beetroot Academy in Stockholm. Before we start, I would like to mention some technical moments. If you have some troubles with the audio or video, please rejoin or send me a message and I will try to help you. And it is important that you mute your microphones and close the videos during the presentation. Throughout the presentation, you can type your questions in the chat here. In the very end, we will have a Q&A session. So then Tano will answer all of your questions. If you prefer, you can also unmute and turn on your video, but that you can do in the very end and we will let you know when. Once again, welcome. And today's webinar is hosted by Beetroot and Beetroot Academy. If you haven't heard about us, Beetroot is a Swedish-Ukrainian IT company which specializes in building teams of developers and designers to work for international clients. And Beetroot Academy is a Swedish-Ukrainian IT school that helps people take their career to the next level. We teach intensive IT courses, and since 2014, we have educated more than 2,500 people. In our schools, we offer both offline and online courses in web development, design, IT management, and much more. As a part of our international expansion, this spring we opened Beetroot Academy in Sweden, and currently we are accepting applications to the courses that will begin in August. So if you're interested, please read more on our website, beetrootacademy.se. And if you need any additional information, please feel free to contact me after the webinar. And today's webinar is about the future of work. And in this session, Tano Lopez will dive deep into the considerations we must all take into account when approaching the occupational and professional ecosystem of the future. Tano currently combines running his startup with being an advisor and focusing on international entrepreneurship and education. His main area of study is the future of education and work, which includes digital transformation and new business models as revealed in his TEDx talk, The Future of Work. So Tano, please start.
Well, Natalia, first of all, thank you so much. Okay. Someone clapping on my window the moment that I start. Weird. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us today. What I will try to address today is the matter of study and the matter where my startup is currently focusing is on giving more opportunities to students around the world. Beetroot will be hopefully one of our partners, and looking forward to work together with you guys, and looking forward to try and address between all of us today, shed some light on this ultra important transcendent issue that is what are we going to do with education and work. If this was even important before all this situation happened, now is more than ever. So just so you know, it's kind of weird that this talk that I'm going to give today is my variation, but keeps on the structure of my TED talk called The Future of Work. The first time that I displayed this talk in the Complutense University of Madrid, most important university in Spain and one of the most important in Europe, it was in January. So even before this whole situation happened, you're going to see like most of this stuff was already happening, but now it just got accelerated, and we really need to know what world we're living on in this sense, and what can we do to anticipate. And today we'll be seeing some tools and some thoughts on this matter. As Natalia said, please feel free to pose your questions on the chat. At the end, we will have a Q&A session, and I'm really looking forward to bring all these opinions and these thoughts between all of us in order to make an interesting debate and conversation over this matter, which is one of the key issues of the future. So, so like I said, this structure that we're going to follow today is very interesting and very simple to understand. It's made in a structure of a TED Talk, so it's short and the concepts are really easygoing. So I hope that no one gets lost, no one loses track. If you do, please again feel free to write down on the chat. Please feel free to enter the Q&A session afterwards. And yeah, I hope you like it. So the way that I see it, the way I introduce this matter is the future is always unknown. So we cannot do nothing about it. I mean, no one knows what's going to happen. Even in the historic moments of most certainty, there was always a level of uncertainty. So I like to describe it with paradox, because for me, paradox is one of the things that happening all the time in the human brain, right? We always have the good and the bad, the north and the south, and it won't be this time. It won't be an exception. So the first paradox that I see, and remember, this was in the first time I talked about this was January, February. Now it's magnified. Is the paradox of not knowing your home. So we as humans are. We just belong to the earth. We're not in another part of the universe, right? But at the same time, we don't know our home. And we make it societies between all of us, but we don't know where we live. We know so little. And now with this situation, it's been more obvious than ever, but we don't even know how nature works, how it reacts to our actions, and how we are relating with the planet, right? So we need to teach people for uncertainty, which is for me the most difficult thing that humanity has ever confronted, right? You teach people to a world that they don't know nothing about. So at the first and all, I want to say in this introduction, we are educating just a small percentage of what really is happening. So it's important to feel small and feel little when approaching this issue. And the second paradox after not knowing your home is related with time. We live in a timeline that we cannot do nothing about it, right? Seconds, minutes, hours. But at the same time, the systems that we've done in our society don't relate very good with time. And the best example is democracy. Democracy versus time is not fair. And let me explain. When you are making decisions based on one person, one vote, it doesn't make sense that long-term decisions are made on one person, one vote. Because imagine what will happen if every 80-year-old voted something for a future 50 years from now. It's pretty obvious that they're not going to live to see what they are voting. And what if every young people was voting the exact opposite? Is this fair? The people who are voting for the future are not going to live it. So how are we dealing with time would be my second paradox to open our brain today. The third one catches the string about the old versus young, but coming to our issue in teaching. Why are old people always teaching young people? What if new technologies have to be taught by the people who are actually using them to older people? So this is another paradox that's new to our time, where maybe we can find the first time in history when actually young people are the teachers and older people have to listen to them. That's very strange. And on the other side, we cannot become just, okay, I don't like the system, I'm going to become an anti-system, because we owe this system progress. I mean, the linear transmission of information between the old people and the young people, how the older choose to share their experience and share their time with the youngsters in the classic education model of history, just when we were living in caves to classes, has been teaching us everything. For me, the most important thing, how to work. So you go to university, so a 50-year-old architect can tell you how to be an architect. So you go to school, so your 50-year-old language teacher who has studied a lot about the language can tell you how to use language. I think this is the first moment in history where this model, due to technology, as we will see later, can be or should be, in my opinion, disrupted. So as we were saying, we owe progress to work. Okay, so for me, what makes us dominant and what makes our work have sense in terms of society, of history, and all we are talking about is a great scale collaboration. So as we usually say, I think it comes from Jabal, from his famous book, the only difference between monkeys and humans is when you try to put 80,000 monkeys into a stadium, right? I think we're dominant thanks to collaboration. And the collaboration in work has brought us not only work itself, which means progress, but cities, social life, families, relationships, travel, leisure, and all of this stuff that belongs us as humans, and only as humans. Other species, when it comes to social life, have very disciplined animal-based structures, are not programmed to try and look further. We can, right? So that's the dominance comes from collaboration and the monkey example that I was talking about. So what we're going to focus on today is in work. We are the only species in the world that can work through collaboration towards progress. For example, if you take any animal and you see their relationships and the way they work and they hunt and they live, it's been the same or practically the same for the last thousands of years, while if you take humanity, only in the last 50 years, we've been faster than the 2000 before, right? So I like to divide work into two parts. First, we have the knowledge. And we are Homo sapiens, which means man that knows. So knowledge is inherited to us. We cannot avoid it. We know stuff since the day we were born. Some of us more know stuff, some know less stuff, but we are made to know, to have stuff inside our brain. But we have technology. So this knowledge and the always seeking evolution of what we know is what brings technology. This comes because humankind is not conformist. This is the only thing that separates us from the rest of the animals. They are conformist with what they have and the laws that they have, and we are not. We are always thinking about building new layers, of technology on top of our knowledge. But the thing that is together in these two things is that both can be and should be transmitted by education. So I support that the previous model of linear education coming from old to young is very good for knowledge, because you are not born with knowledge. You are born into knowledge. You are the result of the knowledge that your parents and your teachers have deposited into your brain. But with technology, it's not the same. With technology, I can use technology better and faster than my parents, just because in the linear time, I belong to a generation that started using technology and they did it. So knowledge and technology, although both are parts of work, one could be seen as traditional, at least transmitted in the same way as we have always had, and technology is the part that maybe, and for me, it should be disrupted by this non-linear way of thinking that we're trying to investigate and search today. And the most important part, education and work are part of the same linear development. We educate people to work. So it's important to know that we go places to educate ourselves, because after that, we want an output. So that's why we educate, to get knowledge in our brain, technology in our brain, how to use, how to mix, we put them in the cocktail, and then we develop our work. Without knowledge, it will be only technology, so very technical kind of jobs. Without technology, only knowledge will be only thinking. But in the combination of these two is where the magic happens for humanity, and where dominance happens, and when progress happens. But what happens when we have, and coming back to the parents, what happens when we have to teach people stuff so quickly? And education traditionally has been, since you were 4, since you are like 24, 25, your master's maybe takes you to your PhD or whatever, you're 30 something, you've taken 20, 25 years of your time, of your life being educated, but for stuff that, for example, as the last one, like Pokemon Go example, just lasted a few weeks, a few days. How do we educate people into stuff that is only alive for a month? So technology is this quick, and before it wasn't. So that's the example of the airline, the example of the automobile, example of telephone. We can build resistant industries to time, because in the past it took this time to have thousands of users and to become mainstream and everyone could use it. So we could use this time to educate at the same time that technology was evolving, pilots, automobile builders, heavy industry. We could use this time, but now we don't have this time. That's the main difference. The technologies that evolve today change from one day to another, or appear and disappear from one week to another. How do we educate people so quickly to perform, to use, to engage with these technologies if they are lasting days? Well, the main problem is that we educate in the present. So we're always late. It's logical, right? If now we're teaching in schools artificial intelligence, algorithms, blah, blah, the people who have now to take 4 or 5 years to study artificial intelligence, 5 years from now, when they are super, super good with artificial intelligence is going to be an old trend. And this has happened always. And I put the example with all schools. We're not going to discuss today Montessori method or Waldorf method. We're not going to get into other kinds of education. We're going to get into the basics of transformation of knowledge and technology. Okay, so this is not a solution for today. I know there's a lot being done in that area, but I don't want us to focus on how we teach. I want us to focus on what we teach today. So all schools are practically the same in terms of content, not dependent on how they tell it, but the content is always similar. So I put example that I'm a 33-year-old. I should have been educated to learn about algorithms, artificial intelligence, crypto economics, search engines, social networks, all of these things that now run my life as a 33-year-old. But I don't have that education. I come from a school where I was taught, with a book about the solar system or the classic music or whatever education, which is great. I'm not saying it's not good and it's not valuable, but it doesn't have a lot of practice that I can apply in my day-to-day life now as a 33-year-old living in Spain, in Europe, Western world, developed world, whatever you want to call it. I don't want this to become a conversation about how the world is run economically. I know there are a lot of differences. That's why we're centering in this part. But the difference that compared to that 80s or 90s when I was born and I was raised as a kid is now we have data. Now we have advanced technologies. Now we get a better chance of predicting what's coming. In the 80s, it was impossible to predict crypto economics of Bitcoin of the 2000s. In the 90s, it was impossible to think that the algorithm of a search engine would be the one to tell me the information, or that I would speak with my phone every day to know the weather. It's nearly impossible. There were some examples, but it is nearly impossible. But now it's different. Now we have strong predictions on what 2030 will look like in terms, again, of technology and work, not socially, because I think no one was expecting this whole situation that's changed everything. But in terms of how technology will look like, I'm not saying we know what 2030 will look like. I'm saying we have a better chance of predicting than our parents had in the 80s. So we should take that advantage and use it in our progress. One of the main things that I've seen in my investigation and working both with corporates and startups is that one of the main issues brought by technology is that we can professionally move from rigid to flexible. So it's obvious that the way we work has changed, but I don't want to speak in the past. As I said, I want to try and predict what's going to happen to adapt ourselves and help our schools develop programs for the people of the future and develop those programs today. So when they finish, or we were talking before, this education period, they are ready for the world that they're living on, not for a world that still has to come or has yet passed, but the world that they're living on. So the rigid structures of linear education were all too young, as we talked before, were the only way to transmit information. I think that except of not becoming this kind of linear structures, they should become meeting points. So the way that I see a classroom, for example, or the way that I see an office is a meeting point. So it doesn't have to have a CEO that tells the rest of people what to do. It doesn't have to have a teacher telling people what to do. I think that CEOs and teachers and the people who are on the top of the funnel controlling the education should be creators, should be guides, should be setting up the way for the others to develop these teams and gain knowledge from everyone in a sense that helps the company, helps the classroom, or helps the school. For example, I don't think that every classroom should have the same pace of educating the kids. If one group of kids is going faster, then there should be no walls for them. The teacher should be a guide to continue pushing them further and further. If the one is going behind, the teacher should be a guide to try and pull them with more energy. But trying to keep structures linear when they are not, for me, it's an error. It's a mistake done by schools and by corporations. So apart from this creativity that grows from these teams that we're talking, the rest of stuff is routine and can be automated. And this is very, very important, and it's dangerous because most of our jobs today rely on this category, on the category of routinary, automated processes. This is the part of the job that machines have already started doing and that they will do from here on, from the rest of the history. It's not a matter of trying to, like I see sometimes, politicians and some lobbies using the word, no, we have to protect our jobs. There's no way. I mean, you cannot put walls to progress. You cannot put walls to technology. Every day a new layer of technology is being built on top of the other one. It's not something that you can say, okay, we finished technology here and we continue the same as before. So machines, like it or not, are going to swipe off the map all of the jobs and all of the professionals which can do better. So for me, you should be very aware if in the job that you're doing, you do 3, 4, 5 days the same thing, then probably that job will be done by a machine in the next few years. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know if it's going to be 1 year, 8 years, 10 years. I don't know, but it will happen. And that's because we have an industrial education in a digital world, as we're talking all the time. That's because I was born in the 80s and they told me to go to an exam, vomit what the teacher had told me, repeat my job so I can get better, go to practice so you will get better. So they tried to put me a routinary way of working inside my head. This is just a matter of the economic capitalism worldwide trying to get people to think as machines, and it worked really good in the 80s and in the 90s. With that level of technology, we could give a lot of jobs to people in the industry, to people in routinary jobs, but that's over. Right now, machines have come and can do this work better, and they will do this work better because it is cheaper for the company and it is better for progress. So we as humans cannot protect or try to look to another place or try to do something different. We have to adapt, and today we'll see what formulas we have in our hand to adapt to these new times. The first of all is to see technology as a friend, because technology will make us human. Technology is already making us human. I also get really nervous when this politics talk about the dehumanization of people or of humankind because of technology. It's nothing to do. It's completely the opposite. Technology is taking from humans the job that they were never meant to do. We were never meant to be routinary, stuck in a box in an office for 12 hours a day. That's a product of social and economic development of the last decades, that we were never made to do that. We are not a species that remains in a box. We are social. We think socially. We act socially. We build teams. So thank you, technology, that you're going to put super intelligent computers to work on those processes that don't belong to me as a species. So I don't get bored in an office, and I can go on and create and make progress for me, my family, my society, and in the ending, my world. Automatic stuff, routine, is for machines. Human brains, it's demonstrated. They don't work like that. Human brains don't work in a linear way. They work in peaks. They go up and down, because we have feelings, because we have emotion, because we have vision, because we have dreams. That you cannot, as we said before, you cannot put walls on human vision. It will just go on and on forever. So our quest to find the jobs of the future and the education of the future, our quest is to find human uniqueness, is to find what things only humans can do. So that will be the most demanded jobs and the most demanded professionals of the future, the people who do stuff that only humans can do, and will never, never, ever, ever, because of nature and how the world works, can be replaced by a machine. So that's what we're trying to focus, and that's what we're trying to look into right now. To make things simple, I've done a compilation, and we've been talking about them. If you've been, paying attention to these concepts, we've been talking about them through all the conversation. And I've done a very simple summary into 3 words that start with the letter C. So the 3 C's that belong exclusively to humankind: creativity, communication, and collaboration. These 3 things, as we're going to see today, will be the engine of the works of the future. Every professional of high level revenue, high level importance in the world, high level of influence will belong most probably to one of these 3 categories. So taking in mind that this is a, partly sophisticated research and that there's a lot being put in, I think this way we can predict the best professional solutions for the future. And even though the system will never be perfect, but in this aim of anticipation, we already did it bad once. I mean, the 30-year-olds of today are already with an obsolete education. We cannot do it worse. What I'm saying is, why not take the chances of a big leap in evolution of education, and therefore education that then transforms into work? If we did it so bad with the education of the 80s and 90s from the people that right now we are 30 and 40 and therefore rulers are very important part of the world. It's impossible, as the example that I write down, to go back and tell a kid in the 80s or the 90s, hey, study cryptoeconomics and algorithms because it's going to be the thing. It just doesn't work like that. So now we can take a better chance. So let's go for it. The first one is creativity. Of the 3, I think this is the most pure human feature. If we were a computer, this will be the part where most of us will make a living. This will be the part that separates the best from the worst, and we have the best skills and the best professions in the future. Why? Because it's imagination. It's dreams. We are touched by the magic of imagination, and that will never change. In this area, I put thinkers, philosophers, psychology, entrepreneurs, people that are building from scratch, people that are using the most deepest part of their brains to construct, to guide teams, to continue work, to develop the economy, to whatever, but they are using their brain. They are not doing processes like a machine. Freelance is badly used. The key of the use of creativity in the future is remote. So thanks to technology, we can now use the creativity of an idea made in United States and develop it in Spain with a team that's working in Latin America under the guidance of a university in Ukraine, in Sweden, or whatever. This is a perfect moment in history to develop creativity, the best one. and also not only because of the remote work, but of the remote communication. That is the second word that we are going to see now. And also because it's the first time in history where, thanks to technology, we can create in very small contributions to enormous value chain. One of the most important disruptive areas of humanity in this side is obviously Ethereum, the blockchain. I like to use Ethereum because it's the most collaborative and where more people are working towards the same goal. And with a very strict set of laws and discipline, this remote way of working permits levels of creativity worldwide that we've never seen. So for me, number one. Number two, communication, not only as human to human, but human to machine. And I guess Beetroot has a lot to say in this. Developers, not only as developers for machine, but developers for machines that can teach, can use music, entertainment, leadership, again, connecting with creativity, psychology, etc. The people who know how to program those machines to do that kind of stuff and elaborate a direct communication between human and machine will be leaders of the future. It's going to happen. Again, it's a matter of time. And also, who controls these two matters going deeper? The one that is creative and knows how to communicate. So this sense of superhuman, super skills, where I have these creativity skills to create new projects, products, and I have the way to communicate them to the outside or put the information into a machine. That profile will be a leader of the future. And the last one is the one that's made us dominant and is the one that relates with us forever. We are collaborative. We need to collaborate. We need to do things in teams. We are the best in history of what we know in the universe, of getting into teams and getting the stuff done. So I think the concept of team will evolve to a super concept. And again, I'm putting the example of the blockchain. The blockchain is a macro team of thousands of people who don't even know each other. It's the perfect experiment of what I'm talking about as for collaboration right now. Share data, grow together, consensus between the parts to grow, to progress. It's the first time in history that we will have the option to do something of this magnitude. And obviously, to collaborate, we will need soft skills. So it will be very good to collaborate only in the part, for developers, right? To communicate only through machines. But the reality is that business is done in an interpersonal way, social and economy and politics, they go the same way. So we need soft skills. We will need to have universities of the future to teach at the same time development, project management, UX, UI, and everything related with digital products. But then they will have to teach also what I call UX for humans, right? How to do a user experience for the person that you're talking with in front. So in that matter of collaboration, I think that coaches, and I don't like this word because it's being used repetitively, but the figure of people who guide process for humans, not only for machines. We've already talked about project management, leaders of thought, masterminds, master clubs, lobbies. I think the people that know how to collaborate at that level will also be, for sure, leaders of the future. And to end, what I perceive after every time I give this talk and I share this knowledge with people is that the future is now, because now we are shaping, now we have the opportunity to kind of know or predict what's going to happen in the next 5-10 years in terms of technology and work. So the stuff that we do right now will have an impact on the world that we see 5-10 years from now, much more than what happened before in the 70s or the 80s, where the movement was much more local. It was difficult to expand. It was difficult to create all together. It was difficult to make these super teams worldwide in order to communicate and collaborate, which for me is the fundamentals. We can continue to teach utilities, like we can teach how to code, we can teach how to program, to design, but we more than ever need humanity. We need soft skills, we need motivation, we need tools to develop high senses of creativity in children since they are small. It's not a matter of keeping kids silent in class. How I picture it, in the class of the future, you will enter and it will look like a party. Just people, you know, speaking in groups. Okay, I don't like this group. I change to the other one. Here we try to develop something. It doesn't happen. The teacher as a guide can be, you know, shut up and take this and take that and put on the blackboard the stuff that we're all creating together. I think that the human side is not only not to be lost, but it's nearly even more important now than ever than the utility technology part. So technology is our friend. It's here to liberate us from the routines and from the stuff that we don't like to do, that is routinary, that is boring, and therefore it's a liberation for our minds, and it should be. So I always end up in an optimistic way. I think we are fully in control of the situation. We are fully in control of the education of today and therefore the work of tomorrow. And it's very, very important that we know that the way that we educate ourselves and our children today is the output of the work that we will see 5-10 years from now in the future. So therefore, the future is now. Gracias. Thank you so much for listening.